welcome to this match in the Medium Games 13 tournament. This is pool play between Catdontbark and UltimateGeek. Let's take a look at this first kingdom. We've been having some client issues recently, so we'll hopefully persevere. Yeah, so thinning is Moneylender and activated Carpenters. Maybe Carpenter will activate. You can also forge. Getting to 7 for forge can be somewhat painful without getting some silvers. So maybe you have to get some silvers, Moneylender silver or something. Alms can also get you some nice cards. We can also use City Quarter for draw and actions, castles for some extra payload. It's not immediately obvious to me what the plans are here. Hopefully these artifacts go away briefly. Yep, there they go. I kind of like Carpenter Moneylender open. Just start thinning coppers and gaining like sleighs and stuff. And then we can buy some city quarters and use sleighs and horses for draw a bunch of cards. Maybe get a storeroom, and storeroom will get us up to 7 to forge, and then we can forge down, something like that. Certainly Moneylender silver is reasonable. It's pretty tough to hit 7 in that line. And I like using Carpenter to cram in. You get a couple sleighs, a storeroom, and that really pairs well with the city quarters you're buying. So they both go Moneylender silver. It does not look like it has worked out for UltimateGeek. They're just saying 4 here, which could be Carpenter, which makes sense. Catdontbark definitely has the good roll here and is hitting 7 and get an early forge, which is quite nice. Although it's tough to increase your hand size with forge this early in the game, so you can't do a ton. I think on 2 you can. If you've already got a Carpenter, they don't have a Carpenter yet, so they definitely should take a Carpenter on 4. And UltimateGeek's going to hit 6 here. I think on 6 you just go ahead and buy a city quarter. It's a good card for your deck. You're going to add a bunch of actions in with Carpenter and Sleigh and stuff. Yeah, so they're taking the Smithy, which I assume means they want to take a city quarter to pair with it for the village effect. And if you can buy a couple of city quarters, and then you can get a bunch of actions off of Carpenter. Unfortunately, you can't quite get Alms to work with debt here. If you have Moneylender to pay after that, you can kind of get it to work, but it's a little tricky here. Sleigh, I think, is going to be the best card for the deck. It lets you top deck your city quarter, and or a thing that you gain with Carpenter, and you can gain the horses if you have enough actions, and the horses are going to be good draw and activate the city quarter. That would be what I would get here, a Sleigh, and then pay off the debt. I don't think I want to buy another city quarter into this shuffle. I think I'd rather have... It's not clear to me. I don't think I really want to take an 8-debt city quarter, because I could potentially Alms next turn for something. But maybe you don't want to buy anything. All the cards you want to buy cost 4 you can gain with Carpenter, so maybe you are happy with just gaining another city quarter here and having 2 in the shuffle. For Catdontbark, this is a tough decision. I think I go estate silver copper into Wheelwright. Maybe. Estate copper Sleigh into Carpenter. Interesting. So what we're seeing here is UltimateGeek could have bought that city quarter and had it in this shuffle, and they would have had the same effect. So at least here they know they've got the city quarter in the bottom 4, so they can not discard with the storeroom and still pay off the debt. And again, if we're taking city quarters, I say just take another one here. Just keep adding in city quarters whenever we have money, and eventually we'll have a big turn and, get out of debt and then buy a forge if we need to. They've thinned quite a few coppers at this point, so they're not super worried about it, I think, probably. Everything into gold. I don't know about that. I really like the Carpenters in the deck, but, I sort of see the point. Take the Humble. Humble's interesting. I think I probably don't want too many more terminals, so maybe one humble is fine. I think Wolf Den though. With Wolf Den, I don't think you could take any of the castles. I think you should skip castles with Wolf Den around. This is a very nice turn for Catdontbark. I think the game's pretty much over here, unfortunately for UltimateGeek. Catdontbark can thin a copper, and then there's an order here. They could have. No, they didn't have an order. They could have gone copper estate, silver into Legionary, and now start playing with Legionary, and the attack is going to be really oppressive. Given that they've got the deck control from the good early forge. So I wasn't 100% on all their early forge decisions, but certainly the way they did it ended up paying off quite nicely for them. And yeah, UltimateGeek could probably just discard 5 here and try to draw into more action cards to play. They can also just discard like 2 estates and a copper. But I know they have another city quarter down there. I believe they have a Sleigh and yeah, a bunch of actions. So that paid off. They can play this city quarter now, and then the Smithy. Yeah, I don't really get the point behind. The humble castle with Wolf Den around. I think with Wolf Den around, it's just a lot of negative points. This is also, unfortunately for them, the last turn where they are going to be able to have a good starting hand. They're going to start getting Legionary attacked every turn, which is going to make it really hard to activate City Quarter. Yeah, and sadly, this is a pretty rough shuffle here. I think they've basically guaranteed themselves a dud turn next turn at the cost of thinning a copper. I guess they're probably going to have a dud turn anyways, the Legionary attack coming in, but we'll see. I think this could be Moneylender into Carpenter. I think we want to add Carpenter back into the deck. We can even play it this turn, which is quite nice. That order is fine, I guess. I think it doesn't really matter. They can gain another thing, but they're not gonna. They're top decking a storeroom, which is fine. And I assume you just take another city quarter here. And the engine basically keeps adding a bunch of actions and then uses city quarter to discard half the actions and redraw, which is quite nice. And I think UltimateGeek is lost here. Catdontbark looks like they're far behind due to the VP, but they can just slowly add in duplicates or, you know, start forging away single copies of actions when they want to. I think their plan should just be to try to get 2 more city quarters pretty quickly, and then start seeding your shuffle with horses off of Sleigh. And then make sure you have two of every action, and then just start greening with a bunch of extra horses. You don't really need to green, honestly, with the storeroom action stuff. You just keep adding in Sleighs and city quarters, and then you have a huge turn where you get a bunch of provinces. Or maybe you get a couple provinces, and then you use Carpenter and Forge to mill. Once a pile empties, which will be city quarter, we can probably use Carpenter to turn the Forge into province, for example. And like the last turn, we can turn the gold into province. The Legionary into duchy or something if we really want to. But I think buying another gold is not unreasonable either. Just it's another unique, plus they do need a little bit more payload, and I think you'd prefer payload that's not action-based. Yeah, you can discard 4 cards here, and then play horse, city quarter, basically to get to the end. So that's only 50-50 to draw the whole deck. But you can just draw here, and then you can play Sleigh, Legionary gold, and I think you just buy Sleigh and City Quarter here and feel pretty happy with the turn. And basically you play out the turn the same way next turn, except you get a little bit more money from storerooms because you have more draw with the extra Sleigh and the City Quarter. And UltimateGeek does not seem like they're in a position to get the attack going anytime soon, so the attack that Catdontbark has is just gonna really mess with their ability to have nice turns. And that's what we're seeing here. You know, the turn 3 forage that Catdontbark got that UltimateGeek didn't get, let them get thin quite a bit faster. I'm really not seeing castles helping here because every castle is worth -3 points. So if you get all 8 castles, that's -24 points, even though the whole castle pile is worth, what, 40 points, something like that. You're barely getting, like, you're getting less than 3 provinces worth with 8 buys, and it's slowing your deck down. It's making your deck worse. And honestly, Catdontbark can probably buy the Haunted Castle for the attack if they want, and they get the free gold, and then they can just forge it into a gold or a province as it whatever makes sense in that context. I'm not quite sure what the Wheelwright is meant to do here. It doesn't seem like it has a significant role in the deck. Carpenter seems to be doing what needs to be done here. And you just want to keep adding in Sleighs and City Quarters and maybe another Carpenter, and building up and getting bigger and bigger storerooms. And then, you know, once the City Quarters end, your Carpenter can start remodeling Forge into Province, and then you start buying provinces with all the money that you have. Wheelwright says you may discard a card to gain an action card costing as much or less. Wheelwright is a new card, so I'm not 100% sure. It does appear by the text of that as much or less that you can discard a City Quarter to gain a copy of it. I think at this point Catdontbark should just do it, and if it doesn't work, I'm gonna try it. UltimateGeek seems to think that it is no. To gain an action card, you may discard a card to gain an action card costing as much or less. And City Quarter costs as much as City Quarter, so one would think that you can discard a City Quarter to gain a City Quarter by the text of how Wheelwright works, but this is a case where you say, I'm going to try it, and if it fails, you know, play the Wheelwright and then do it, and if it doesn't, undo and discard a different card. We will see. Yes, it does work. Very nice. Yeah, wow, so Wheelwright to gain City Quarters is a cool combination. I had missed the as much or less meaning when I first looked at that card. So it's quite good with very expensive cards. It's kind of like Way of the Rat in that respect. Yeah, if you look at, Lucas, the cost of every Dominion card as a 3-dimensional, as a 3-tuple or a triple of coins, debt, potion, then to be strictly less than, you have to be less than or equal to in all dimensions. So City Quarter would be 0 coins, 8 debt, 0 potions, and Engineer would be 0 coins, 4 debt, 0 potions. So it's equal to in the 2 0 dimensions, and 4 is less than 8, so that would work. In theory, you could also then discard a Fortune, but it has to be an action card. So yeah, you could discard a Fortune to gain a City Quarter, which would be cool. Because Fortune costs 8 coins and 8 debt. I think this game sort of played out from a few turns ago based on what I said, and I think it's a good good time here probably for UltimateGeek to look to resign. There's not a 3-pile, I don't think, and I don't really see a clear path to anything. Catdontbark can just start grabbing provinces this turn pretty safely. One thing I would look to do as Catdontbark is potentially to save my horses between turns, not necessarily play them all. I don't know, maybe that's too. They've got 7 city quarters now, so it's not like super necessary. But yeah, they can discard the Forge now to gain a Legionary, which is cool. So they have another one of those, and Carpenter can turn. Wheelwright can turn Legionary into Legionary, and then Carpenter can turn Forge into Province. They can just start doing that, and we see their scores going up as they've gained another Wheelwright. Now they're gaining even more Wheelwrights. I wonder if there's a kind of like a Wheelwright auto pile thing going on here. It certainly seems possible. And if not like an auto pile, they can certainly do it over 2 turns. And they have the ability to add 2 provinces pretty quickly with this deck. So I suspect this game will end next turn on a 3-pop if UltimateGeek doesn't resign before then. The piles being Wheelwright and Sleigh, and then Catdontbark just grabs 2 provinces or something like that. They can discard all but like 2 things here. They can discard down to 3 city quarters only, and get 6 coins here, and then the remaining city quarters will draw the rest of the deck, because the first city quarter draws 3. But maybe they're looking to do something else here. They're forging Carpenter into Smithy. I don't really understand why, but that is what they're doing. Legionary can play Gold, reveal, and then they can play Sleigh. They can play Smithy, then Legionary, then Sleigh, city quarter, and that will top deck 3 horses, which is a nice thing to do. UltimateGeek is finally getting back around to their city quarters, but they were never able to afford a Forge because they didn't happen to hit turn 3 like Catdontbark did. We'll see what they decide to do here. The Carpenter pile is quite low. The Sleigh pile is quite low. They didn't get around to Province this turn. I wouldn't really be worried as them about UltimateGeek getting around to it, but I think next turn they want to look to empty those couple of piles. Yeah, this is the other problem with adding the Humble Castle to the deck. We just end up dudding. Sometimes with city quarters and Legionary attack. Although here we're seeing we're getting a little bit somewhere. We've got we got to 5 money. I guess they take a small castle. I don't know. I really don't think the castles are useful at all here. They should just take a Wheelwright or a Smithy, or with only 3 city quarters, it is also a fair time now to resign, probably. Really, there's no reason to discard the silver there. You're just costing yourself a coin. Possibly they have realized that. Or they're... Oh, they can also Alms. They can Alms here as well. I guess what they're thinking is they're going to lower the piles very low and hope that Catdontbark somehow duds. And Catdontbark could have top decked a couple of horses last turn if they wanted to, but there wasn't much need. Yeah, you click a couple of city quarters here to start the turn always. You've got 7, so you're probably going to play 2 or 3 before you start in the Wheelwright stuff. But then you just use Wheelwrights to gain the rest of the Carpenters, and then buy, Sleigh, Province, something like that. They can also use the Carpenters to remodel Legionary or something, or into duchy. That doesn't really help. Remodel the gold into province, though, is worth 6 points. A little confused. This seems way too early in the turn to be playing the storeroom. I think they played this storeroom much too early in the turn, but it does not end up mattering because they can just gain 3 carpenters here and then 2 sleighs and buy province or remodel the gold into province, and we end the game here. So it looks like it's going to be 1-0 Catdontbark going into game 2. Hopefully our connection client issues have resolved themselves and game 2 can get started earlier. And I'll wait a moment while Catdontbark clicks out the winning line. We have to be slightly careful just not to end on a weird number of uniques, but it's somewhat tough to do that. You just have to be slightly careful. And it looks like we've got 2 of everything in deck except for gold right now. So Carpenter gold to province is going to be a lot of points. But Sleigh into Sleigh, and yep, we don't need to buy anything now, so we can end the turn. Don't click a random estate at the end for -2. All right, so game 1 goes to Catdontbark.